Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is Michelle, and who's here with me?
It's JD.
It's JD.
It's always JD.
It's always JD. It's always Michelle. So far, we have a 100% streak. Good job, us.
Yeah, nobody else wants to come and join us.
Good. We wouldn't let him anyway.
No.
If this is your
Get
first
off my
time
lawn.
Oh my God. If this is your first time tuning in, first off, that is how we are all the time.
Yep.
Secondly, our whole thing here is that we watch Shudder, and Shudder is a horror movie, whatever. It's a platform and it's got movies of the horrific type. We're just fans. They don't endorse us. They might hate what we do. We have no idea. We just like the service. So don't go complain to them if you don't like what we're doing. It's a completely independent thing. Anyway.
Complain to them if you don't like the movies, but don't complain to them if you don't like us.
Yeah, if you don't like the podcast, that's an us issue. If you don't like the movies, that's a them issue. You should write them a sternly worded letter.
If you don't like the podcast, why are you still listening?
They gave up.
That's the wrong attitude to bring into the beginning of a podcast, I think. The wrong energy.
We have thousands of people listening, and they love us.
Man.
Hello, welcome. Well, okay, anywho. Today, we are going to do what we always do and talk about one of the original/exclusives that was released this week. JD, what are we talking about today?
Well, it's a double feature week, and today we're hitting the second half of that double feature. It's called Speak No Evil. It's a Danish film directed by Christian Tafdrup.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
As we always do on this show, I'm going to just give you a quick rundown of the Shudder description, then we're going to hit you with our spoiler-free thoughts.
Yeah.
So nothing we say should spoil the movie yet. So first off, here's the description from the website. One family accepts an invitation to the rural home of another they met on holiday, only to find their lives altered in unexpected, deeply horrifying ways. From director Christian Tadruff, Speak No Evil glides from squirmy to sinister to full-on shocking. A Shudder original. From is in there twice, and I enjoy that. Anyway, JD, would you like to hit us with your spoiler-free thoughts?
I would like to lightly tap you on the cheek with my spoiler-free thoughts on Speak No Evil.
I bruise easily.
No, this movie was pretty all right. The story. I think I just would have liked a little bit more of certain details in certain places. But overall, I thought this movie was pretty good. Kept the tension gradually but consistently ratcheting up all the way through the movie. It's very much one of those everything starts out perfectly normal. In fact, too normal for its own good. And then things just slowly but surely get weirder and creepier and stranger. And then it goes for the jugular. But I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really solid. Definitely interested in seeing what Christian Tafdrup does in the future. I'm giving this one a 3.5 skulls.
3.5 skulls out of 5 from my co-host JD. Well, we somewhat agree about this movie, except that I loved this movie. Ooh. I seriously debated giving this a 5 skull.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to go quite to the 5 level. I will give it a 4.75 out of 5 skull.
Awesome.
I think that this movie just preyed on a lot of fears that I already have, and it delivered really well, and it was beautifully shot, and it just kept me just captured by this entire experience. I could not look away. I loved it. I will go with a 4.75 out of 5.
That gives us what, an average of 4.125? Did I do the math right?
Wow, the human calculator, JD, you did. 4.125 out of 5 skulls, which is a pretty good score for this movie.
Pretty dang decent for Speak No Evil, which I think is a pretty accurate parallel to the movie. Pretty dang decent.
It is. Yeah. Well, that's the end of the episode. Goodbye. Oh, wait. No, we're missing a part.
All right, guys. Yeah. So now don't leave quite yet. Hey, I remembered this time. What we're going to do here is if you want to go actually watch the movie now before we get into the spoilers and a little bit more deep and involved discussion of the movie, we're going to give you an opportunity to do that. If you don't care about spoilers, well, then you just keep right on listening. If you do care about spoilers, in a moment you're going to hit your pause button, you're going to go watch the movie, and then when you're done watching the movie, you're going to come back here, you're going to hit that play button again and finish our episode. Does that about cover it, Michelle?
I think that is a pretty solid description of the steps that they should
think
take
we
if they don't
got
want to
it
miss the
right
rest of the
this
episode.
time. All right then,
Yeah,
guys. If
good
you
job.
want to go watch the movie, you're going to hit that pause button right about meow. All right, are you back? Cool. So Michelle, we both enjoyed this movie. You enjoyed it a bit more than I did. Why don't you take the first watch here and just go to town? Let us know all about what you loved about Speak No Evil.
Well, JD, I would love to do exactly that. I love movies that wreck me emotionally, and this did a pretty good job of making me feel like a crummy human being and questioning humanity as a whole. And I love, like, that is my favorite kind of horror. Movies like Martyrs, just the ones where I'm like, I'm very, very upset and deeply disturbed, and I kind of hate myself, and I need to go take a shower. Favorite kind of horror by far.
So
this
you
did a great
really
job.
enjoy Martyrs.
Oh, I have seen Martyrs so many times, and every time I get very uncomfortable. I've seen the remake and the original multiple times.
Wow.
That movie fucks me up. I love Martyrs, but I have a very hard time watching it, and yet I still keep doing it. I'm just a massive sadomasochist. But yeah, if in case you are one of the people who heard the beginning of this and then went, I don't really need to see that, I'm just gonna listen to them break it down. Here's the breakdown. This couple with a child meets another couple with a child. They become polite friends, and the one couple invites the other couple over to their place for a couple days, and they go, well, it would be impolite for us not to go. So then they go, and things just get slowly more and more uncomfortable because people are trying to figure out, at what point do I feel like I'm in enough danger that I can be impolite? And that is a huge fear of mine, where I have been in points of like, I might get physically harmed if I don't say anything soon, and I have stayed there. I related to these people so much of just like, yeah, they might murder me, but also, what if they unfriend me on Facebook? That's the bigger horror for me.
Yeah, the whole
horrifying.
The whole movie, I was watching it and I was thinking back to just a couple of weeks ago to Who Invited Them.
I thought of the same
and
thing.
Our discussion of politeness and not wanting to come across as rude, and I was like, oh, this movie is gonna eat Michelle alive. And I was right.
Absolutely. Yes. I thought of Who Invited Them too. And I was like, this is apparently the month of just social awkwardness that becomes dangerous.
Yeah.
So if you have not seen the ending of this movie, eventually they're right. These people cut the tongue of their daughter off, and then they get murdered by being forced to walk naked into a wintry quarry of some sort. And then they just get rocks pelted at them until they die, and their daughter is now the other family's daughter now, and they killed their first son. And when they are asked, why are you doing this? They respond, because you let us. That got to me so much, because I'm like, oh my God, I would let them. Oh my God. And I was like, why are you not fighting these people as they're stealing your daughter? And I'm like, because they said that no harm would come to them, and they believe them. These people have such a optimistic view of humanity that it is their downfall. And this one fucked me up. I loved it.
Yeah, I was definitely on board for this one. For sure, a bit more than I was for the first half of our double feature yesterday, Flux Gourmet. I like this movie. Does a really good job of, I'm not so much into the really aggressive bleakness all the time. Like Martyrs is not a movie that's a movie that you enjoy a little bit more than I do. That one's
I'm broken.
That one is a little more. It's a little too straightforward in its bleakness. If you're gonna get bleak, I need a little bit. Like a movie like Saint Maud is pretty bleak, but there's a little bit of a different sort of vibe. Anyway, what I liked, like I said, about this movie is it does a great job of ratcheting tension. You start out It's just these two happen to meet each other couples. They're out on vacation and they just happen to meet because they're staying at the same sort of like resort or whatever. And then they get an invitation to come hang out in Denmark with them, or in Holland with them. They live in Denmark and they're going to Holland. And they're immediately like, that's kind of weird. We barely know them. And it just gets weirder and weirder and stranger. And there's layers and layers. This, again, part of what kept me from going the full 9 the way you did on this movie is definitely that I don't have that same level of fear of being seen as impolite that you do. There were several moments along the way where I would have pieced the fuck out on these people, and there's nothing they could have said or done to stop me. Frankly, the fact that the wife was so easily talked back into it after she found her daughter in bed with this naked man and her wife, her, 10-year-old daughter or whatever, maybe single digits, I don't remember. That's when shit just got, I was just like, what the fuck? And the tongue cutting, I mean, we've had several conversations before about how shit with kids really fucks me up. I feel like I didn't like seeing it, but I feel like this movie earned that sequence a little more than some others did, just by, again, how well it did work at ratcheting up the tension, building up. This is one of those, this is, again, the kind of movie I like where it's just like a slow burn where you just know there's just like looming dread and you know something is coming. And something I actually really enjoyed is the reveal when they show you that Abel has been drowned. What I like about that is, for a moment, they have ratcheted the tension so well that I was expecting way worse when the camera turned around than just a child floating in a swimming pool drowned. Like, I was expecting something fucked up. I mean, as if drowning a child isn't fucked up enough as it is. But, I mean, you know what I mean with the kind of shit that we watch
There are
here.
worse ways to go.
Like, this, I was thinking we're going to come around the corner and this kid's going to be mutilated and splayed all over the room. It could have been, and I kind of like that. That, like, it's a perfect example of how what you do to yourself in your head is way worse than anything they're going to be able to do to you anyway. And then another detail that I really enjoyed is when he finally gets up into that attic in the other building and he sees the photographs. What I like about that is they never touch on it, but there are a lot of fucking photographs in that attic. These people have done this a bunch of times. And it's like, that's, the one part where I wasn't so completely sold on the travelers, and I'm sorry that I forget their names, but the two who ended up being the victims, I wasn't completely sold.
Bjorn and somebody.
Yeah, Bjorn and his wife.
Mrs. Bjorn.
Yeah. Oh God. And weirdly enough, I remember on the other side the woman's name was Karin, but I don't remember the dude's name, the bad guy. But
Mr. Karin.
Mr. Karin. Yeah. But so I would have, like I said, I never would have made it this far. Like, frankly, if somebody I met for a few days on vacation sent me a postcard asking me to come to Holland to visit them, that's not happening, right? They're going to get a polite reply that says, I'm
Hear
sorry.
that, Holland listeners?
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
It's like, and they're, wherever they're from, all I'm saying is they're going to get a nice postcard back that says, hey, I really appreciate that offer. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it. And that's where this story ends. When I get there, here's the question that I have for you. How did those people not immediately say, wait a minute, this is where a doctor lives? That doesn't look like... Because I'm not saying a doctor wouldn't live out in the middle of nowhere. I'm saying a doctor who lives out in the middle of nowhere doesn't live in a fucking shack like these people live in.
I could see that kind of in his head. Bjorn had built this stranger up as such a good person that he could have said, "This is a doctor who's choosing to live a frugal life."
I guess also
because he had such a high regard of
well,
this
and now that you
stranger.
mentioned that, it does immediately come to mind, of course, that this is not an American movie. This happens in Europe. So maybe the doctor, it'd be a lot more reasonable to expect that doctors wouldn't be so material and wealth oriented. You hear that, American doctors?
I wasn't gonna
like
say it, but
much, you jerks.
Saying it would be impolite,
so
and as we have learned,
there were
I don't
little
like
things
that.
like that about it where I wasn't fully connected to it. There were a couple of moments that got really confusing, even like towards the end when they're running away. Like, obviously, I understand why he left the road because he was trying to get away from the other vehicle. But after they get stuck and he starts walking out, when he comes back to the car, Louisa, that was her name, Louisa, and Agnes, the child, they're gone. And when he meets back up with Karen and Patrick. That was his name, Patrick. I remembered all the names. Oh my God! And Abel was the boy.
Wow.
And
Magudi was the babysitter
or something like that. Mujahideen.
Yeah,
no,
we
Mujahideen
almost
is,
got all the names.
The Mujahideen is a totally different thing. That's like
Mujahid. You were close.
Yeah. But anyway, so when they finally come out and pick him up, like, Louisa and Agnes almost seem like happy to have been rescued by these people just all of a sudden, when these are the people who have been super creepy and weird this whole time. So I feel like I was missing something there. So little bits along the way where I didn't connect with it fully, and I didn't personally get caught up in the logic of it. But I could at least understand that kind of person and totally see how somebody else who isn't me could get caught up in this situation. There's a small bit of schadenfreude in me that just wants to say, well, see, if you had just stood up for yourself rather than being so fucking worried about being so polite, you wouldn't have just been stoned to death in a quarry in the middle of the Netherlands by a couple of crazy people who just cut your daughter's tongue off. That's what you get for being worried about being impolite. Which would you?
When I get stoned to death in a quarry,
Michelle, would you rather somebody think you were rude or be stoned to death nude in a quarry in the Netherlands after your daughter's tongue has just been cut off?
I'm gonna go with the quarry.
See,
because at least when I die and people go to my funeral, they'll be like, she was so nice. I never had a bad thing to say about her. She was always so polite.
All she would have had to do was just say the impolite thing, but she just took one for the team.
But then if I said the impolite thing, someday I'm going to die anyway. It's inevitable. That person is going to show up to my funeral and be like, yeah, so she thought I was abusive to her daughter, but it was just a weird miscommunication. Her daughter's fine. I didn't do anything to her. And that's what people are going to think of me. They're going to be like, this monster accused somebody of something that they were not doing at all. So, like, God forbid. I'm just inviting people to come kill me in a quarry now because they know that they can just push the limits. I have to go back to that photo room because thinking about that is where, like, after I got done watching this movie, I had time to think about it. This felt like it was probably going to be a child trafficking situation where they were taking these people's children and then selling them or doing whatever they do that is awful. But instead, they have gone through all these children and just killed them and gotten a new one.
Yeah, that's another one of the things that was a little bit of a shortcoming for me is...
that added to it for me.
And I do want to say, like, they did... a great job in making me wonder, like, whoa, who the fuck are these people and what are they doing? And again, what the fuck are they doing with all these kids? Because there are a lot of kids they've been through according to those photos. But I became so curious. It was such a well-painted mystery that I became so curious that I was kind of upset that I didn't get more details, right? Like
that's how you get with movies.
Right.
You need more information.
Yeah. Like, it was like, don't get me wrong. it's not the kind of thing where I feel like the mystery isn't earned. I definitely understand what they were trying to do. This is just one of those situations where, again, the mystery was so compelling to me that I really wanted to find out more about who these people were. If I had gotten a little more of those details, again, probably would have bumped my score up a little bit. Maybe would have brought yours down. But there's one thing that I want to mention, because, it's something that I go back and forth on with this movie. You talked about the sequence where they're like, why are you doing this to us? Bjorn's like, why are you doing this to us? And Patrick says, because you let me, or because you let us. And I agree that is really, it's a creepy sort of thing. It also reminded me way, 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 way too much of The Strangers. When they're like, why are you doing this to us? And they're just like, because you were home. Like, it felt
odd.
It felt so, like, I immediately thought of that line to the degree that it felt so much like, and again, they're two slightly different specific details, but it's essentially the same logic, right? It's just because you just happen to, again, for The Strangers, it's because you just happen to be home. For this movie, it's because you didn't try to stop us anyway. Just the matter of factness and the simplicity of it just immediately ramped that up into my head and kind of pulled me out of that moment a little bit. But again, I do agree that it's a pretty I guess everybody always again wants the explanation, like me. And sometimes you don't get the explanation, and fuck you. You just gotta accept you're just never gonna know. And so that definitely is kind of how this movie plays a little bit. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this one. I definitely think people should give it a look. I think it's, again, got a lot in common. It's still a very different movie, but also overlaps on the Venn diagram a bit with a movie like Who Invited Them. But I think does a lot of those same sort of things a little bit better than that movie did. It's kind of a different direction. We're going to be the visitors rather than visitors coming to us. But and just overall the tension mounting of it, I thought they built to a really great climax, and I had a good time with this one. I don't know that if I'll be running out to watch it again anytime soon, but I'm definitely glad I saw it.
This is one that I have already told several friends that they have to watch before listening to this episode, because I want them to feel the heavy despair that I did at the end. Yeah. I did, because I finished this movie before you did, because I am a crazy person and I watch way too many movies.
And JD is terrible at scheduling.
No, you just are a much busier person on Thursdays than I am, and I am like, movies are my number one thing in life.
Yeah, but whose fault is that? It's mine.
Yeah, it's also my
I want to be
the
heel.
I don't have friends. So I had been reading some interviews with the director and writer Christian Taftrup. And I came across some quotes that I just really enjoyed and wanted to share. So he said that he wanted to make the most depressing film in Danish history.
Well, he did a good job. Oh, man, it's bleak.
He said actors said no to castings because they thought the last 20 pages were just too much, and many people asked me to rewrite that. I tried to rewrite it with more hope in the end, and then it just became a bad American horror film.
Okay, I like that. I'm with this guy.
I really enjoyed that.
You know what?
But also,
you know what? On the strength of that interview quote alone, we're bumping this up to 4 skulls. We're going from 3.5 to 4 skulls. That's brilliant. I love that. We tried to make it a little bit less bleak and a little more hopeful, but then it was just a shitty American horror film. I love that.
Yeah.
This is now a 4 by 4.75, giving us an average of 4.375 skulls.
Yeah, I knew you would appreciate that because the
That's
movies that are
awesome.
the most upsetting are usually
Also,
from Europe.
the flippancy with which we occasionally just in the middle of an episode adjust our skull ratings should tell you how much stock you should put in these skull ratings. Just side
I put
note.
a lot of stock into
Michelle
mine.
puts way more-
I have a system.
Michelle has a whole system and a logic, and
I
she's
do.
constantly
I try.
adjusting as she goes. And I'm literally just like,
Mhm.
how do I feel about how I felt? Like, how did I feel about this movie when I was done, and how do I feel about it right now? Just like, what's my you could ask me 3 days from now, and I give this movie a completely different score. But we're going up to 4 skulls on this one.
It's one of my favorite things about doing this show is that yours can be all
The
over the
skull
place,
ratings mean
changes constantly.
Ultimately,
Mine, I'm sitting here
don't
going through my
ever pay
system.
attention to my skull ratings. Just listen to how I talk about the movie. You'll
Also,
understand
don't pay
which
attention to
ones.
mine because what if we disagree and then you hate me? That's why I'm like, oh God, what do the majority of people think? What do I think? Am I okay going against the grain? Am I right to go against the grain? Am I wrong? I really need to think about.
What I'm waiting
I
for now
stress about
is
my ratings.
I'm waiting for the moment where I talk myself into an even lower score, where I'm just like, I didn't like a movie and I'm just ranting about why I didn't like it, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck this movie. 0 skulls.
I know that it has been a very long time since we did the episode for
the
off season.
was it off season? How about The Twin?
Oh God,
The Twin was
well,
my
the Twin-
first half a skull rating. The Twin. Fuck that movie. You know what?
I would like-
Retroactively go back. Fuck The Twin. 0
No.
skulls.
I was about to do that with off season. You stole my gimmick.
I'm sorry.
Well then, okay, if we each get one freebie, you just gave the twin 0. I am going back because off season is one I have thought back on so many times. Like, it keeps me awake at night how upset I was about that movie. But still, I gave it a 3.5 because there were so many good parts to it. And I will lay awake at night and be like, 3.5 is way too high. That was terrible judgment. And I feel so bad about it. I'm lowering it to a 1. It's official on our Excel spreadsheet. That is now a 1, so that's a 1.75.
I love how this episode
movie.
about Speak No Evil has descended into a dissection of exactly how valuable our skull ratings may or may not be.
Yeah,
Oh.
I feel so much better clearing the record about off season because
Oh,
seriously, at least
What
once
did
a
I
week,
give
I'll be
off-season?
drifting off. You gave it 2.5.
Oh wow, we may have to reconsider
I'm just really
that.
pissed off about the music that was from Beauty and the Beast, but was not from Beauty and the Beast. I lay awake at night and I think about off season and how pissed off I was at the end of that movie, and yet I still felt compelled to give it a good score because the cinematography was good. I'm going to talk myself back into a good score again. But
Stop it. Just
fuck
stop
it.
right
It's
there.
at a 1. It's at a
Stop
1.
right
That's what
there.
we're ending at.
Go back and
Speak
listen
No
to
Evil
our
was
episode
very good.
about the
Off
movie.
season was awful.
Yeah. Go back and listen to the episode about off season if you haven't previously. Go back and listen to all of our episodes. Michelle, what are we watching next week?
Next week,
In case
we're
you didn't,
watching
just to
ourselves-
summarize, guys, in case you didn't catch on, we both suggest you go see Speak No Evil. See it when you get a chance. Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
really worth your time.
Next week, we are watching our continuing descent into madness, but we are also watching a movie called Raven's Hollow.
Raven's Hollow. What could it be about? I bet it has something to do with ravens in a hollow.
It is about Edgar Allan Poe. That's literally all I know about
Well,
it.
tell me no more. Stop right there. It's already been spoiled. No.
I thought that you were going to quote Edgar Allan Poe at me.
Oh, no.
Isn't there no more Raven, never
Quoth the
more,
Raven nevermore?
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't want me to quote the
No,
Raven?
no, I'm
Okay.
not going to do that to
This
you.
is just, we're going off the rails.
Yeah,
We're
it's
just,
the whole thing. You do they have any time remaining, Michelle, to order T-shirts? This episode is gonna hit at midnight on the 17th. Do they have time?
I think we can be kind and give them through the remainder of the day. So at 11:59 Central Standard Time on September 17th, that is your final call. We will extend it just a little bit, and that's only because my Saturday plans got canceled, and I am
Woohoo.
feeling gracious.
Awesome. So if you still
I will
want one
be
of
playing
those
Persona
awesome
5 in my basement.
We Watch Shudder T-shirts feature, you'll be playing what in your basement?
Persona 5.
Persona. Okay,
Oh shit, we gotta talk. You are a high schooler and you're also saving the world. It's a fucking great series. We will talk about Persona. I am 100%
Is this
team
anything
Persona
at all
5
like
right
the-
now. I
the-
put 150 hours
game-
into it
the
so far.
game where you wear like a sheep costume and climb towers?
Oh fuck! It is by the same people. That's called Catherine, and Catherine
God.
is one of my all-time
What have I
favorite video
done?
games. This
Okay,
is
let
also
me-
by the same studio. We have to talk about this at some
Let
point.
me wrap up this episode.
Fucking
So
love
guys, check
Catherine.
out the social
Ugh.
media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
Play
and
Catherine
TikTok.
if you haven't.
We watch Shudder on all those places. The form for filling out to get a T-shirt, including pictures of the T-shirt, featuring art by the amazing Juan Ortiz of the Dead Designs. That's all. Probably the easiest place to find that is going to be pinned to the top of our Facebook. Hey, go check all of that out. We've got a new episode coming out every day in October. Going back and checking out some of the
great.
originals and exclusives that came out before we started the show. And Michelle, we're doing another live appearance. Where are we going to be?
We're gonna be at wrestling.
No, that's not. Well, okay, so we are going back to wrestling, but that's not the one I was talking about.
Oh,
you
sorry,
skipped right
next
over the
week.
next one.
I'm so sorry. I have wrestling on my brain. You reminded me of Catherine. Now I'm feeling aggressive.
Oh.
So I'm like a beta fish, and I saw my reflection, and I want to fight.
That's funny because I'm like a beta
No.
male, but
But we will be at Anime Fargo next week.
Yes.
So come check us out. We're going to be doing super spooky, scary movie party, which I did by myself back at CoreCon. And we had a grand old time. I loved watching reactions of people being very upset at the scenes that I showed them.
Oh,
so we're going to do that
fun.
again.
Are we gonna? And we're putting an extra focus on Asian horror
Asian
movies
horror.
because this is a sort of an anime and Asian entertainment themed convention. And oh, buddy, are there some things in Asian horror movies that we can really, really disturb some people with?
Yeah, I really want to give at least one person nightmares. And just a shameless self-promotion. The week after, I will be at ValleyCon for Burlesque, both Friday and Saturday.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
come see me there. Our special guests, or their special guests, not mine. I have nothing to do with it. But the special guests are Bill Mosley and Joe Bob Briggs, and Darcy's a Mail Girl. And I swear to God, if I see them in a hall, I'm just going to pee myself.
Right,
I'm so excited to just be in the same room
We're
as
gonna
those people.
try real hard to maybe bring some mobile recording gear and maybe talk to them.
Just
for
chase
a
them
little
down.
while.
Darcy,
Right.
Darcy.
Hey, we talked on we talked on the Twitter about how you also enjoy pro wrestling, and do you remember me? Should be like, that's like 7,000 dudes. Who are you? So yeah, we're
And then she'll be like, "Oh, you're the lady who is doing a Batman burlesque routine
Right.
tonight," and I'll be like, "Hell yeah, we're friends."
yes, absolutely. So yeah, we got Anime Fargo appearance coming up. Michelle's gonna be doing some things at ValleyCon. We got the next Time Bomb Pro Wrestling event coming up in October at Sanctuary Event Center here in Fargo.
We've officially
Shit,
made
we're
it.
gonna be everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere, even in your house.
Yeah,
But not if you invite us and we barely know you, because then we know what happens
Right.
because of this movie.
right. Don't do
Yep.
or maybe
Don't invite us
do
places.
that. I said do.
And on that note,
On that note, yeah. Do you want to do it or should I?
I'll go ahead.
Okay,
and
you do
Okay.
it. How does this work?
And on that note, say goodnight, JD.
Good night, Michelle. Oh, I did it wrong. Good night, JD.